People think they know what old age looks like. Quiet, predictable, settled. What they don't talk about is the weight of all the things you never chose. My name is Evelyn. I was 69 years old when I realized my life had been shaped almost entirely by accommodation. I adjusted, I adapted, I stepped aside, not because anyone forced me to, because it was easier. I married young, not out of passion, out of timing. My husband wasn't unkind, but he was certain. Certain about what he wanted, certain about where we would live, certain about how things would be done. I learned early that harmony came from agreement, so I agreed. We raised children, built routines, hosted holidays that looked warm from the outside. Inside, I became very good at shrinking. When my husband passed away 8 years ago, people worried about me. Then they stopped. They assumed I would find my way into a quieter version of the same life, and I did, for a while. My days became neat. Grocery shopping on Mondays, laundry on Wednesdays, phone calls with my sister on Sundays. Nothing wrong, nothing alive. I told myself this was peace, but peace shouldn't feel like waiting. One morning I stood in my bedroom staring at the closet, rows of clothes I had chosen carefully over the years, safe colors, practical cuts, clothes that didn't ask questions. I realized something strange. I didn't recognize myself in them, not because I had changed, because I had never been fully present when choosing. That day I walked past my usual stores. I kept walking until I reached a small shop I had noticed for years but never entered. Bright windows, unfamiliar styles. I stood outside longer than necessary. Then I went in. The woman working there smiled. "Take your time," she said. I touched fabrics I would have once dismissed, colors I would have avoided. I didn't buy anything, but when I left, my heart was racing, not from fear, from recognition. That afternoon, I sat at my kitchen table and asked myself a question that felt almost inappropriate at my age. What do I want? Not what is reasonable, not what makes sense. What do I want? The answer didn't come immediately, but the question stayed. That night, I couldn't sleep, not because I was anxious, because something inside me had finally woken up. I wasn't dissatisfied with my life. I was untouched by it. And for the first time, I wondered whether it was too late to change that. The thought surprised me because instead of fear, I felt curiosity. And curiosity at 69 felt like rebellion. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Not because I had somewhere to be, because my mind refused to settle back into routine. The question from the night before was still there. What do I want? It followed me into the kitchen, into my coffee, into the quiet hours that usually passed without resistance. I tried to ignore it. I folded laundry, I watered the plants, I made a grocery list. But everything felt temporary, like busy work designed to delay an answer. Later that afternoon, my sister called. She always did on Sundays. We talked about familiar things, health, neighbors, who had moved away. Then she asked, "So, what's new with you?" Normally, I would have said nothing. This time, I hesitated. "I went into a different store yesterday," I said. She laughed lightly. "You? What kind of store?" "Clothing," I replied. "One I've never been in before." There was a pause. "Well, that's different," she said, sounding unsure how to respond. Different. That word followed me again. After the call, I went back to the shop. I told myself I was just looking. Inside, the same woman greeted me. "Back again?" She smiled. "Yes," I said. "I think so." I tried things on, slowly, deliberately, not to impress anyone, to see myself. In the mirror, I saw a woman I recognized only faintly, not younger, more present. I bought one dress, nothing dramatic, but it wasn't safe either. When I brought it home, I hung it on the outside of the closet, where I could see it. It felt symbolic, though I didn't fully understand why. The real test came a few days later. My daughter stopped by unexpectedly. She noticed the dress immediately. "That's new," she said. "Yes," I replied. She smiled, but there was curiosity in it. "Where would you wear something like that?" I considered the question. "I don't know yet," I said, "but I wanted it." The room felt different after that. Not tense, exposed. She didn't argue, she didn't criticize, but I could tell she was recalibrating her idea of me. Later that evening, after she left, I sat alone and wondered why that felt so unsettling. I realized then how carefully I had maintained an image, reliable, predictable, finished. Any deviation from that made people uncomfortable, including me. The next week, I signed up for a local art class, not because I had talent, because I had curiosity. On the first day, I almost didn't go. I stood by the door with my keys in my hand, debating. No one would know if I stayed home. That was the problem. So I went. The class was small, mixed ages, no expectations. As I painted, something loosened inside me. Not skill, permission. I wasn't trying to be good. I was trying to be honest. That night, I hung the dress back in the closet, but I didn't hide it. I left it visible, as a reminder. Something had started. I didn't know where it would lead, but for the first time in years, I wasn't organizing my life around comfort. I was organizing it around truth, and that felt dangerous in the best way. The resistance didn't come from strangers. It came from familiarity. The people who had known me the longest were the ones most unsettled by my change. My sister visited one afternoon. She noticed the painting supplies on the table, the unfamiliar dress still hanging where it could be seen. "You're busy lately," she said, trying to sound casual. "I am," I replied. "With what?" she asked. The question wasn't curious, it was corrective. "Things I enjoy," I said. She nodded slowly, then added, "Just don't exhaust yourself. You've earned a quiet life." Earned. That word again, as if silence were a reward. I didn't argue. I had learned that explanation often invites negotiation. After she left, I sat alone and felt the old pull return, the temptation to soften myself, to reassure everyone that this was temporary, that I wasn't changing too much. That night, I dreamed I was standing at a train platform. Trains came and went. I stayed still, holding a ticket I never used. I woke up unsettled. The next morning, my art instructor announced a small gallery showing. Nothing formal, just a few pieces displayed for the community. "Only if you want," she said, "no pressure." My first instinct was to decline. Public visibility felt dangerous. But something in me resisted the retreat. I said yes. Immediately, doubt rushed in. Who do I think I am? What if it's embarrassing? What if people see too much? The days leading up to the showing were uncomfortable. I considered backing out. No one would blame me. But when the evening arrived, I put on the dress. Not to impress, to acknowledge myself. At the gallery, I stood near my painting, heart pounding. People passed. Some glanced. Some stopped. One woman stood quietly for a long time. "This feels honest," she said. That word landed deeply. Honest. Later, my daughter arrived. She looked at the painting, then at me. "I didn't know you had this in you," she said softly. "I didn't either," I replied. The moment didn't fix our relationship. It shifted it. She saw me not as finished, but as unfolding. On the walk home, I realized something important. I wasn't afraid of being judged. I was afraid of being redefined. But redefining myself didn't erase who I had been. It expanded me. That night, I took the dress off and hung it back up, not as a symbol of rebellion, as a reminder of courage. I wasn't becoming someone else. I was becoming present. And presence, I was learning, requires visibility, even when it's uncomfortable, especially then. The balance didn't arrive overnight. It settled slowly, the way confidence does when it's no longer asking for permission. After the gallery showing, life didn't suddenly transform. There were still quiet mornings, still familiar routines, but something fundamental had shifted. I no longer rushed to return to the woman people expected me to be. I let the pause exist. My sister stopped commenting on my schedule. My daughter stopped sounding surprised when I mentioned plans. They adjusted, not because I explained myself, but because I stayed consistent. Consistency, I learned, teaches people how to treat you. I kept attending the art class, not to improve, to participate. Some days I painted, some days I simply sat and watched others work. Both felt valid. One afternoon, a woman in the class asked how long I'd been painting. "Not long," I said. She smiled. "It shows, in a good way." I understood what she meant. There was no performance left. At home, I rearranged my space. Nothing dramatic, just small decisions made without justification. A chair moved closer to the window, music played in the afternoon, meals eaten slowly. I stopped filling silence with obligation. I let it be spacious. One evening, I stood in front of the closet again. I didn't reach for the dress immediately. I didn't need to. It was enough to know it was there, that I had chosen it. That choice had changed something permanent. If you are listening to this and wondering whether it's selfish to want more, please hear this. Wanting more is not a rejection of the life you lived. It is an acknowledgement that you are still living. At 69, I didn't abandon who I had been. I honored her. And then I gave myself permission to continue. Not loudly, not dramatically, honestly. For the first time, my life didn't feel like something that had already happened. It felt like something still unfolding, and that was enough.